Welcome back to the Anxiety Hour, where we are learning and evolving together. Literally. I'm joined by a close but distant friend, Luke Mackley, also known as Luke Bohemian. And Luke and I, we met a couple years ago while I was traveling, and we've stayed in touch since. And now we have the opportunity to talk together about something that has touched both of our lives and is really important, and maybe can help you guys tap into things that might help you.
100%. I'm very excited to be here and share this video with you as well, because I have not really spoken to many men about my mental health, Marcella being one of the exclusive people, and only a fine tune of others. Fine
group of others.
Fine group, you understand where I'm coming from. But yeah, this is a new experience for me to share this live with you over YouTube. So I really hope some of you can take some value away from this. And if you've got a notepad or pen, please note some bits down, pause, rewind. Leave a comment in the section below, and Marcella and myself will be happy to share our experience with you other ways.
100%. Yeah, so again, like, the intention with this video today is just to inspire you guys to reflect within yourselves and hopefully give you some information as to how you can help yourself in mental health. But specifically, this video is made for men because in our society, and I'm from the United States and Luke is from the UK, men aren't talking about their mental health enough, and that's creating this body that is just coiling up and getting tighter and tighter because we're not having a place to vent, we're not having a place to learn new tools and advance our mindset and heal past traumas or situations that are holding us back. And so our intention with this video is to share our experiences while also maybe giving a few tools and anecdotes that can just inspire you to seek help and feel comfortable seeking help, because again, the more that we get these things out, number one, we can have better relationships, we can be more creative, we can just live a much clearer, happier, more peaceful lifestyle.
100%. And for starters, to put this into perspective, like Marcella said, I'm from the UK, and it is a known fact that 4 in 5 suicides are caused by men, and that's over 78%, which is alarming for UK, a small island just in Europe. And this is why it's important for us to talk about it, because this is something that has been neglected for years to come. Traditionally, men are supposed to be the breadwinner, and now we're in an age where there's a turn of the tides. Women are being more independent, they're taking their careers seriously, and where does that leave men if we're not the breadwinners? We're almost out of place, out of tune, and now we're in a new groove trying to find a new age of men identity, you could say.
Yeah, that's actually really well said. We're literally transforming our identity and our culture, and part of that is letting go of a lot of the stuff that we have inherited from the way our fathers have lived their lives and our grandfathers have lived their lives, where life was entirely different.
So, as Marcella said, family and father figures have been an important role in this as well. And speaking from experience, in 2020, I was actually made aware that my father was diagnosed with cancer, and he is still fighting the cause now. But at that time, I have never dealt with the emotions that flowed afterwards. I was suffering from essentially the grieving process. It was depression, anxiety, anger, frustration, and all these feelings were displaced, and I was not putting them in the right place because I was not listening to myself. Marcella made a comment before about my iPhone being smashed when I was setting up a recording on the side here, and I said, well, it's funny you said it, because that happened because of the emotions I felt when I found out about my father. I just didn't know how to deal with it, and the easiest thing for me was to throw my phone against a wall. Smashed, done. And that is not how we are supposed to operate, or it's not healthy to operate as such. So this is why this video is important, talking about our experience and how to deal with it.
And similarly, it's like when we have this bottle of emotions, that's how typically our behavior comes about, and we lash out. For me personally, like, you guys are already familiar from older videos, my experience with my first time coming across anxiety, and that is in the form of obsessive obsessive
OCD?
OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yeah.
Sorry. Obsessive compulsive disorder, and then GAD, which is just generalized anxiety disorder. I don't like the disorder terminology on here because really these are just old things that I haven't healed, and therefore as I start to move through them, they start to affect my life much less. It's not a disorder that you're going to live with for the rest of your life. But for me personally, I went through a really intense bout of both anxiety and depression when I was graduating from high school, and then also again when I was graduating from college, where I was in this about 6, 7, 8 month like time frame of just really debilitating thoughts, like obsessive thoughts and invasive thoughts around death, around my health, around sexuality, all of the above. And when you get into those mind storms, it's very difficult to get out of them. And so when we have a support system around us, like close friends that we can talk to that can hold this type of space, or therapists, they can provide an outside perspective and they can help us kind of just like pull us out of that thought storm, you know? And so like I have shared in the past, like books have done that for me. Male support systems, female support systems, and therapy has done incredible work for me.
And these are feelings that can come up and bite you in the ass out of nowhere as well. And I remember from my experience, yes, I felt these feelings with my dad, but it wasn't until maybe a month or so later where the big bout of anxiety came. There was a point where I was literally physically stricken to stay at home, and I sat down and I was tearful. We were supposed to go out and meet Tyler's family for dinner, and I was just like, I can't drive. It was a suffocating feeling. It was like I was on the edge of a cliff, like as if someone was about to push me off. That's how fearful these emotions can be if we don't deal with them. And this is why it's so important. Yeah.
It's awesome that you took like time and set your boundaries in that situation so that you can come back to yourself.
Yeah, and which is
mental health day.
Yeah. I mean, it got to the point where I had to though.
Yeah, no, of course.
Like I had that feeling, like I said, I couldn't. And if I can't do it, then it's an encapsulating feeling. And then that's when everyone else around me was like, okay, maybe we shouldn't, maybe we need to do this, maybe you need to try this. And that's where support started to raise awareness for itself, like Tyler, my mother, my sister. Obviously I was talking about feelings I never really spoke about with them before, so I think it was new for them as well. Yeah. Like all of this experience is new for everyone, so we're not saying like men's support is already there and active. It is growing alongside the awareness of
mental health in general. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. It goes hand in hand. So that's why this video is not just directed to women, to men. Sorry, it's directed at women as well, because the two go hand in hand, and we need that as males.
The more healed we are as a male figure, and the more healed we are as a female figure, the more that we can just continue to support each other. But yeah, I mean, like we're paving a new road for ourselves. So as you're experiencing this on your own, your family's experiencing it on your own, and so it's like we're climbing this entirely new cliff and trying to 100%. Understand it.
And family is one of the main surrounding influences of the identity as well. Like as we said previously, men were traditionally breadwinners. You go post-war, it's just a systemic image of men to work. If you think of a man right now, you would think of someone who's strong, who's independent, who can lift heavy things,
totally independent,
fix a car, but the terminology of a man has changed, and that is, it's hard to deal with, because the system hasn't changed with it.
And that is why having a support system as you go through this what is it called when a butterfly goes into a cocoon?
It's like a
metamorphosis.
Yeah.
As you're going through this metamorphosis, it's so important to have that structure. And in my previous videos, I have referred to this, I've referred to medication specifically as crutches and a cast, because what a cast is doing for a broken leg is holding everything in place. It's giving it structure, while the actual crutches are then taking the pressure off of that broken bone so that it can heal, right? Because if you're just like constantly going at life and you're feeling really anxious, like you couldn't go to see Tyler's family, like you had to take time to yourself. Like having a support system allows you to take that pressure off and allows you to really do the healing. And that's so important as you're going and dealing with mental health issues and dealing with any type of trauma that you had in your past.
And this is why it's important for, obviously, our society and culture to evolve with it, because that is
100%.
a strong influence. You might have a great family setting, a great atmosphere, but then it's external factors which are coming in. It's left, right, and center. You see an advert on the street. You see social media. We are surrounded by these images constantly skewing our own self-belief and intuitiveness with ourselves, basically. It's a tough one. It's
a tough
really
one,
tough, because it's not necessarily men's anxiety comes from one area. It is a fluctuating scale where it'll just bounce backwards and forwards because it's confusing. It's like being boxed in the face, and all of a sudden you're dizzy. There's a spell. You see birds. You see numbers. Like.
Then you get caught up in those feedback loops and you go back into those mental storms. So our intention here again is not to overload you with how terrible anxiety could be, because chances are if you're already watching this, you know how anxiety feels, and that's why you're watching it. But our intention here is to share ways that you can do that and to feel comfortable doing it. Again, I've done it, he's done it, we do it together. The number one way for me personally, you might have different thoughts on this, but number one way that I have found support before opening up to other figures in my life, because I felt more safe in this area, is a therapist. Now, therapy, of course, there's a changing stigma around therapy. It's much more accepted than it used to be. Like my mom, for example, when we've talked about therapy in the past, it was like, she's 62 now, so she said that when she was a kid, if you went to therapy, you were considered like the psychotic person in your neighborhood. Whereas now, like at least 70%, I won't be too bullish on like 80%, but around this area, that's how many people have a therapist, or at least talking to a counselor or a coach, etc.
And people don't realize how good it is to speak to a stranger about your feelings as well. A complete stranger. First therapy session, you might or you may not unload so much feeling because it's just somebody new, someone you have disconnect with. They're on equal ground. They're not going to judge you for what you're saying to them. So
totally unbiased.
Because they invite you in, you feel inclined to share more and more and more. And that's a space mainly only therapists can replicate.
It's true.
Give to people who are suffering with men's anxiety.
And the most important thing here is, like, to get to that point, you have to find a therapist that you're comfortable with. I have created a little article just to kind of show you the steps that I went through to find a therapist that really was suitable for me, that really helped me, and I will include that article below. But really, it was just stating the things that were important to me, the non-negotiables. This is for the second time I went about this process. I didn't want to take medication the second time. I prefer to have, it's ironic in this situation, but I prefer to have a female therapist because it's kind of maternal, nurturing. I really enjoy that. And then I obviously had a budget. So I went into the researching phase of like finding a therapist with those non-negotiables so that I felt like I was coming from a place of power. I found somebody. I actually researched like 6 people, had a conversation with each of them, and then I ended up choosing one that worked for me. And then now, this is like 3-4 years ago, I'm so much better off.
It's so funny, like this is a major topic because my mum actually recommended me to go see a therapist at this time of the anxiety that I felt with Tyler, going to see Tyler's family that day. And one of the first things she says, look, if you can't speak to me, if you can't speak to Tyler, anyone else, at least try to source somebody else external to give their opinions and hopefully provide insight for you. Therapists these days are not traditionally sat in a room and you're not laying on like a little futon or anything with a comfort
psychoanalysis
with the glasses. Therapists are acting differently. They're adapting with the times, and the person who my mum recommended, he was actually someone who you would be doing recreational activities with, like you're going out hiking. So you're in he will put you in an environment that is comfortable for you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Which again at the time I didn't realize therapists were doing this, because this world
it's not talked about.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And the second part here, after seeing a therapist, you start to get an idea of where your boundaries are, what you're comfortable talking about. And you're going to start to find that you're creating a foundation within yourself, and you're going to start to know yourself better as you take off all of these layers of shit that has happened in the past that no longer suits you. And as you get to that point, you'll start to feel more comfortable having like real conversations and being vulnerable with close friends. So the second piece that we have for how to find support system or create a support system is, after therapy, finding like male friends that you can speak to, or our third bullet here is female friends that you can speak to in a very open way where they can hold space for your healing. And we watched the video earlier. It's really important to recognize that not everybody will be able to hold this space for you.
No.
And that may be challenging.
And that's something you have to experiment with as well. You might have really close friends, but they're close in different proximities, maybe in the experiences you've had in the past, or the jobs you have together. But this is a completely different realm. So if you're going over to a friend who you've been there for in the past, the feeling might not be reciprocated because they're not equipped and they don't have the tools to help support us with our our instability.
And just going through our healing, right? Because we're talking about like the emotional and more spiritual type of healing here, right?
And I could go through my friends and I could say who I wouldn't go to with certain
like baseball
issues.
Cards for healing.
Exactly. This pile. You know your friends, and if you don't, then we advise to really try to get to know them a little bit more and incite deeper conversations with them. Maybe not just go balls deep into the fact of men's mental health is an issue, but raise a couple of questions like, how are you feeling today?
Yeah, just poke around, start to feel who you feel comfortable with, and you'll start to realize who feels like a safe zone to land in.
And it's funny, like even if you notice your friend being different, it usually takes at least 3 times of you asking them if you're okay in different ways to actually get to the root.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? They might respond with, yeah, I'm good. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm good. And then the third one could be like, oh, well, it just seemed a little bit off, like your energy was down kind of thing.
Right.
I was just curious, how are you?
Yeah.
And then the gate could be opened slightly.
Then they feel more comfortable. They're like, okay, this person actually wants to support me.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a couple sayings here. The first one is the 5 people that you spend the most time around are the people that you're most likely to become like, right? So like I hang out around Luke, I immediately start learning more about photography, videography, being sustainable, etc. Now, in this case, like the other analogy that I want to bring up is if you're going to go to the gym and you're looking to get more fit, you're not going to work out with the guy who is
the smallest guy in the gym.
Exactly, the smallest guy in the gym. Hey, they might be working on their craft, right?
Yeah.
But typically, if you want to get bigger, you're going to go work out with the guy who's the biggest in the gym. It's as simple as that. So if you're going to bring your mental health to somebody, you want to be in a safe zone, maybe reach out to the person who you know has gone through things like this and who has succeeded in this area or just is knowledgeable in the area. That's crucial. Like, support system is just, it's the foundation for a healthy and loving life. Like I always like to say, for me, relationships are the bedrock for a loving and fulfilling life. The quality of your relationships will determine the quality of your life.
And reiterating being supported by women as well. It is crucial to get support wherever you can. And if you can't find it from other men's circles, then if you have women in your life who are supporting you, please try and connect that with them. They provide such a different opinion,
perspective,
on things as well. Like Marcella said, it comes from a different way of feeling. It comes from the maternal side. It comes from the nurture essence of femininity.
Yeah, that's why I chose to have a female therapist. That's also comes back to my relationship with my parents. I always felt more comfortable sharing like my emotional side with my mom versus my dad. Again, because at that point in time, when my dad was growing up, he didn't show his emotions. He just worked on his craft and provided for his family. And so I always felt more comfortable sharing around women.
Yeah.
However, although I've gotten a lot of value from women, men can provide a totally different type of perspective on things, and the brotherhood that you feel in that situation is much different than like a brother-sister type of approach, because men just are having different experiences than women are, and are experiencing mental health in an entirely different way.
And vice versa. Obviously, women have issues that the men wouldn't necessarily understand.
Exactly.
So that's where we have to, again, understand how we can be supported and how we can support others. And if none of this is really taking your fancy and you're still like inside, then you can always journal. You can always write down your feelings on paper and reflect them back, read them back, so you get more of an understanding and you get to know yourself a little bit better. I journal daily. Only 10 minutes in the morning I write.
Sorry.
It's alright. His phone's just rang in the middle of a very important subject.
Can you believe that? I'm the worst.
I journal daily, only 10 minutes in the morning, but it's enough for me to reflect on my feelings. And I don't just write it and I put it to the side. I constantly flick through. I see where I was maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I read the passages from last year when I was feeling these bouts of anxiety.
You see that growth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because maybe you don't see it, but your track record in your journal will. And you can look back and you can say, actually, I am feeling better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's another cause of this men's mental health thing, is that men are taught to provide and always progress.
Yeah. I like to refer to that specifically as the spiral, because typically we like to think of our growth as linear, right? And it's like, we're never going to deal with this issue again and we're going forward, we're not looking back, right? But really what happens is we're on a spiral path upwards, and we are very likely to come across the same challenges again, but we're approaching those challenges with different tools and a different evolved mindset. So whatever issue that you were experiencing last year, you were experiencing with an entirely different tool set.
Exactly.
Now you're coming at it whole new mindset.
Self-reflection,
yeah. Journaling is so crucial, and you may have resistance. I had resistance when I first started journaling, because I was like, I don't know what to write, like, it felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But if you just sit down like 15, 20 minutes and you just kind of write anything that comes to mind, start with literally anything, what you had for breakfast,
whether you liked breakfast or not.
Yeah, and you'll just start to flow. And then another option too is you can do journal prompts. And through this process, by the way, journal prompts are questions that will inspire reflection. But this will start to show you an awareness around your feelings and your emotions, your moods, and how you respond to things. And that is very much like a therapist, just without all the tools that a therapist can maybe provide you.
And it's a great first step to start opening up about men's mental health 100%. As well. If you feel that you can't go to anyone, go to your journal, and then hopefully you can build on that. Like, that is the first step, and then you can peel off the layers as such. We were saying before, like, the process is like peeling an onion. There's layers and layers and layers, and it stinks and it's horrible, and it gets in the eyes and start crying. It just it's a continuous process. But
it's super rewarding.
Yeah.
Again, like what he said in the beginning of the video, like, we can have more fulfilling relationships, clear relationships, because we're communicating with each other from a place of where we've healed instead of a place of fear and ego and judgment. Because as we move through our emotions, we start to let go of a lot of the judgments and the ego and the fear-based types of relating with each other.
And that's the greatest thing, because then it starts to bring awareness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we
much deeper sense of peace.
Exactly. We're starting to understand. We're starting to see the signals in ourselves and in people around us. Like it's that itself, when that comes into your mind and it clicks and you're like, oh, actually shit, like I know this, I feel this, now what do I do? Like it's like I said, it's rewarding.
It's very rewarding. And then the last piece here for opening up and kind of going into this process is, as we find ourselves in anxiety, when I found myself in anxiety the first time around, because it was my first time, it was much more intense on me, and it was much more difficult to get out of the grasp of anxiety, because I had no tools, I didn't know what was happening, and I didn't understand the mind at all. But as I started to educate myself, like coming across journaling, coming across like different books that were telling me about anxiety and about the mind, I was starting to see and change my relationship to anxiety and to depression. And that alleviated and created a space between me and my thoughts and the anxiety that was happening to me.
Yeah, and that
shines the light on things.
Yeah, and it's hard, because unless you don't have awareness, unless you don't have the education, it's hard to be subjective about yourself, because we are in our minds. The person we speak to regularly is in our mind.
Yeah.
The person we see in the morning when we wake up and go into the bathroom, in the mirror, it's us. It's our minds that we like, oh shit, I look tired. Like, that's the kind of ongoing dialogue. And if we can create that awareness, that knowledge, and eventually separate and have a subjective but yet still emotional, tangible action to that, then that'll be the correct way to move forward, and men's mental health support and awareness, we will grow. Yeah.
And through this whole process, you're coming back to yourself, and you're creating this expansive confidence and just peace with being in your own skin. And that's it. I mean, really, that's it. You just become a lot more clearer in yourself, and everything that you do starts to shift as well.
And if you have any questions, if you are suffering with anxiety right now, then you are more than inclined to reach out to either me or Marcella. Leave a comment below. Leave an emoji to say how you're feeling. It doesn't have to be a sentence or anything, just something, because something is the start to the path of healing, I guess.
Yeah, of evolving.
Yeah,
exactly.
Anyway,
bada bing, bada boom.
And we're done.
We're done.
Smash like.
Smash the like, the subscribe. But seriously, the last piece here, I have my website up now as well, and I'm going to be including a lot of resources on there where you guys can reach out to other coaches and find articles like the one I've written on therapy, so that you can start to find a therapist that works for you, so that you can start to expand that community of people that you can go to for support. And that's it.
Yeah, I'm happy with this conversation.
Yeah, likewise.
It's been good. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. So yeah, please hit like, please comment, and please subscribe to my channel, to Marcello's
channel,
and my channel, The Two Bohemians, and we will see you in future videos.
Bada bing, bada boom.
We have been talking like my unique New York.
Just the fucking Scotch. Welcome.
Why are you saying welcome so much?
I don't know. It's gotta have some charisma to it. Ooh, it's okay. Silliness is totally welcome here because, again, the relatability is very important. Like, if you fuck up, just come right back in. Like I said, I like raw. I like it to just be
for sure
as natural as possible. Yeah,
sounds good.
All right.